hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna apologize in advance if I'm a little snippy because this morning I'm trying to be productive and like, ooh, I need to get back into running. I signed up for a race last night at 10K, end of May. I signed up for where I put in my Nike Run Club thing, got 8 weeks. I need to run this morning. And I was like, oh, well then we're gonna look a mess. We should film a video before. And then I was making coffee and I was like, wait, I should wait to have my coffee back because this isn't a long run, right? This is my first one back getting into running. Anyway, all that to say is, I'm annoyed because I've been up and down the stairs because of course camera batteries were dead, and then like, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter here. I found a battery that has life. We are here, still have not had coffee. I have a few things to say because, oh, what is this? Book Communitea, where I try to keep you abreast of some of the goings on in the bookish community. So a big thing that has been discussed lately, and I'm very surprised at some of the reactions that I'm seeing from it, mainly on Threads, is the announcement of Goodreads finally creating a DNF shelf. If you have been a part of the bookish internet for any amount of time and known or have used Goodreads, you know that people have been wanting this, amongst other things. Half stars, quarter star ratings, people want a DNF shelf. And the answer from some people is always, why do you still use Goodreads? It's owned by Amazon, use Storygraph, use Fable, use whatever. Here's the thing, is that Goodreads is it's a very integrated part of publishing for authors, for advanced review, or for like art and reviews. It's just very integrated into like that ecosystem. And I do still use Goodreads, so you know, pop me. I was thinking about also making a story graph because I'm gonna be honest here, okay, right? There's no way to be perfect in this world, and I know we can pick and choose different things. If I'm not using Goodreads, then how do I complain about it? What? I also really like the social aspect, and I've had it for so long. There's so many people on there that I would hate to abandon that, but I am thinking about also making a story graph, so people who aren't on Goodreads, I just haven't done that yet. It's on my long list. Okay, so Bob must have gotten an assistant. If you don't know, I have been saying for years that Goodreads has one employee named Bob who be trying his best. But now he must got an assistant because a DNF shelf I did not see this coming.
Quickly, if you're not familiar, this is kind of like what your My Books looks like on Goodreads. So it'll have what you're currently reading up top. Then there was a want to read shelf and a read shelf. That was really it. And at the bottom, you can see tags. So that's how we differentiated stuff before. I will say later in the video, like we kind of had to make our own shelf, and that's what I mean. So everything would end up on your read shelf, but you could put a tag on it, like I have DNF because nobody got time, to keep those separated. But now Goodreads has put in an actual shelf, so you have want to read, read, and now did not finish.
And so maybe in 5 years, maybe they'll have the half-star rating. Who knows? Maybe they'll get Bob a third employee. I don't know. Anyway, from what I see, mostly readers are very excited about the DNF shelf because you can mark things. You have your way of marking different things on Goodreads because we've had to make do. But I do have a thing where I put books that I've DNF'd because I like to keep track of those. I put usually what percentage I DNF'd it at. Sometimes I put, you know, a little thing. I personally don't rate, like give a star rating to books that I DNF, unless for some reason I read like 90% of it, but that's just me. Some people do, but I like to keep track of that because usually mid-year and then the end of year, I like to go back and usually make videos, books I've DNF'd. So it's not a new thing. But now there's an actual shelf created by Goodreads. I'm very surprised, it seems, and it looks from what I see that it's a lot of authors who are like not happy about this, and I'm very confused. So I saved some of their threads and I'm just gonna read them. I won't post them here to out you and your whatever, but hold please. Did we really need a did not finish shelf on Goodreads? I'm not sure what purpose this actually serves. You mean to put the books that you did not finish on the shelf? That's the literal purpose. Okay, whatever. Goodreads is adding a DNF, did not finish shelf to their platform. Watch the trolls weaponize this as another way to hurt an author's rating. What? No. No, the same. It's just they actually created the shelf. People were already, if they already DNF'd a book and they gave it a star rating, that was already happening. This isn't going to increase. I haven't had my coffee yet, so maybe I'm missing something. You can fill me in, but I'm just confused. Ooh, I found one from a reader. I think the idea of a DNF shelf on Goodreads is fucking stupid. And I say that as a reader. If you don't like a book and don't finish it, you really don't have to broadcast that to the world. Just move on with your life. To me, you can't really adequately review a book unless you finish it, but that's a whole different rant. Yeah, again, you said to me, so why don't you move on? Okay? I can't, let me take a little shortcut here. What do you call it? I can't think because I'm not caffeinated. A little jaunt to the side. I can't stand the little hoes. It almost gives bookish pick Misha energy. I don't understand why you guys have to talk about books you didn't like. Don't you know your reading taste? Why do you have to be so negative? Why do you hate reading? Why are you posting a 1-star review? That author wrote a book. You should at least give it 3 stars. No. What is wrong with y'all? One, let's be real with not even just in the bookish community, just internet in general, negative content gets a lot of engagement, okay? People should also share their views, whether that is a 1-star or a 5-star, because people, the viewer who is consuming that content, can learn from both positive, middle of the road, and reviews where they love it. If it's a glowing review, sometimes somebody has a 5-star, this is my favorite book of all time, glowing review, and they tell me why, and I'm like, I'm not gonna like that. Same can go for a rant review about a 1 or 2-star book. Y'all have got to get it together. If you don't want to do that, if you choose not to post reviews lower than 3 stars or rate books lower than 3 stars, good for you. But stop trying to police what everybody else is doing. Oh my God. Y'all are so thirsty for attention. Do you want an author to come and say, oh, you're such a good reader, thank you so much? Is that what you want? Fuck out of here. To be fair, here in this video, I came across this 2 posts. So I'm gonna read the first one. And this person said, why is it difficult to understand that authors have a different dashboard than readers on Goodreads? We are not trying to invade reader spaces or dictate how they shelve. Those of us nervous about the DNF shelf is because it will not be an aggregated data point pushed in front of our faces, just like how many ads to shelves we can see while we're trying to manage our books. Publishers and authors use Goodreads differently than readers, so stop shitting on a Black woman's opinion about the shelf. Goodreads is used for readers, but is one of the very few reviewer sites that is tied to a selling platform. Review average on Goodreads appears on an Amazon sales page, so while authors do our best to avoid evading that space, Goodreads specifically is used by publishers and authors as a business platform. It's not solely a review platform. As a reader, I love the idea of a DNF shelf. As an author, I'm concerned how this aggregated data may pull me into a reader space I try to avoid. And hold on. Then someone said, what do you mean authors can see the shelves we put our books on, including the DNF shelf? And an author replied, we can, and don't stress about it. Most of us don't even look, although I will say some of y'all are really creative and funny on how you organize your books. Okay, so if they can already see how we organize books, then does that mean they can already see if you have a shelf that says do not? Because mine says DNF because nobody got time. But here's my thing. And again, I'm not an author, so I can't see their author viewpoint on Goodreads. But it makes me think as myself as a creator in the back end that you see on YouTube in the analytics, which is I understand if you go into your dashboard and you're seeing like statistics of how many people put this book on their DNF shelf. It's like going into my analytics and seeing how many subscribers you lose or how your watch time dropped. And again, I'm not an author, so I don't know what you have to do, what is part of the practice. But here's what I've had to do for my own mental health is I can't go there. I can't look at it anymore. If YouTube sends a roundup, here's your February stats, delete the email. When I go into the Creator Studio app to respond to comments, I literally will do this and navigate to where I'm going to avoid looking at it because it ranks your video. It says how much watch time, how much it's gone up or gone down, how many subscribers you're losing, what you got paid last month for. So I literally have to cover that because it will send me spiraling. So I don't know if that's a thing that they can avoid, but I mean, because if somebody says want to read and then they remove it from their want to read, are you tracking that too? If they just took it off? Like, I have books that have been on my want to read for years, and periodically I will go through and remove some of those. So do you track that too? I can understand that if you're like you're like in there and looking all the things, but you're gonna have to find a way to ignore that, sweetie. I don't know, because I'm excited about the DNF shelf. Are you? I feel like Goodreads adding a DNF shelf is going to be so harmful to authors and keep readers from missing out on good books. Just because one person didn't love it doesn't mean someone else won't. Anyone else have thoughts on this? That is so stupid. What do you mean? Go back to what I just said about somebody's 1 star could be your 5 star. Reverse. What do you mean? There is no guarantee that you will love a book. Someone said someone DNFing a book and marking it as DNF is not a call to action for others to also DNF that book. I just would like us to have some thinking skills. But as we have noticed, thinking, especially critically, we're on a downturn. It's dangerous out here. So anyway, I, as a user of Goodreads, am excited about the DNF shelf. Are you? Now, to the other thing that I want to discuss, because I was seeing a lot of conversation about it yesterday, and it is about a recent release by, what is the author's name? Ava Reid. Has a new book called, hold on. Innamorata. The conversation is about the absence of trigger warnings. This conversation is not new. Is any conversation in the book community new? But this has been going on for years. As in the last, I will say especially, I joined the bookish internet or like started posting on this platform in 2020. So I've definitely been seeing that conversation since then, and it has become more of a thing I see more often now in books, especially if they're going to include graphic content, usually like in the author's note, or sometimes there's a note in the front of the book about what kind of content. I've seen some that are like, we have, pet loss, or there is animal abuse, or there is like on page, assault, various things like that. But it's not every book. And when I say it's commonplace, I don't know, but I guess it depends on what you're reading. I know that a lot of dark romance authors, or a lot more are like putting that in their work, but I think it just depends, right? So it's not a blanket thing that is done for every book. I only have heard about this book a little bit. I haven't read any of Ava Reid's work, so I'm not familiar. But multiple people, of course, you see one thing and then you interact with it, and then the threads feed you more. So the first person I saw said, trigger warnings are vital when you have triggering content. Innamorata refused to use them, and in my opinion, if they come up regularly in ARC reviews and trigger warnings aren't included at release, your book deserves to be poorly rated. Oh, but it's supposed to be uncomfortable. Uncomfortable does not equal triggering. If you write things included in those screenshots, you owe your readers the safety of warning them about that. I believe the trigger warnings, I said twig. The trigger warnings in the photos are graphic. Be careful about unblurring them. So this is your warning. I'm going to read what the trigger warnings are, as readers have added them onto Storygraph. So there's screenshots. This says ableism, animal death, body horror, body shaming, child abuse, death, emotional abuse, gore, incest, infidelity, misogyny, pedophilia, physical abuse, self-harm, sexual content, sexual violence, blood, medical content, cannibalism, murder, pregnancy, injury detail. Let's see. There's some of the similar ones here: self-harm, sexual content, blood, medical content, murder, pregnancy. And this says, okay, adult minor relationship, body horror, death, fat phobia, gore, infertility, infidelity, misogyny, toxic relationship, sexual violence, torture, schizophrenia, psychosis, pregnancy, alcohol, sexual harassment, colonization, classism, pandemic, epidemic, animal cruelty, animal death, eating disorder, emotional abuse, xenophobia, vomit, cannibalism. So those are a lot, but again, those are added by readers on Storygraph. This was not from the author or the publisher. And More people have said the conversation happening today around Ava Reid's new release highlights the importance of the inclusion of content warnings in marketing books correctly. Because if those two things had been done correctly, I guarantee this convo would not be happening. But since it wasn't, the book will perform poorly due to it finding the wrong audience and people DNFing it due to not being given a bare minimum heads up. This is an excellent case study on bad marketing and not listening to your readers. So someone said, I didn't realize it was Ava Reid's decision not to include them. That really saddens me to know. Content warnings, trigger warnings are so important for a lot of stories. And so somebody was trying to ask, like, point to where Ava said that specifically, and I don't know. So I'm going to try to find out if there is something that she said.
So there was no screenshot. This person said it was unfortunately Ava's decision to not include content warnings. I ended up DMing her after I finished my arc to inquire if they'd be included in any capacity in the finished copy, and she told me she'd made the decision to not include them. I guess her publishers didn't push back against that either, so I'm thankful to you as a bookseller for including content warnings. Readers shouldn't have to sift through Goodreads reviews for fan-made content warnings to know whether or not the book includes triggering content. Again, I'm not saying this person is a liar. I'm just saying I have not seen a screenshot of like a direct DM with Ava or a post that said specifically she was like, no content warnings.
Let's see. I'm going to go to her Instagram. Okay. 6 days ago on her Instagram, Ava Reid said, I wanted to it was showing off a PR box, and said, I have also been heartened to see so many reviews from people who have enjoyed Innamorata and all of its dark strangeness. It is not a romantasy, and I think if you go in without those expectations, you will find something very unique, unlike anything you have read before. I'm so excited for this book to be out in the world and to see more reactions to that ending. 4 days until you are welcome to the death-soaked island of Drepane. Another post says, Innamorata takes place on an isolated island which has been conquered by a mainland city-state. It is ruled by 7 noble houses that used to practice necromancy until these traditions were violently stamped out by the conqueror around a century ago. With Innamorata, I wanted to create the sweeping feel of an epic fantasy with sacrificing the claustrophobia of a gothic novel. So I was very deliberate on how much I shared about each house. Our protagonist, Agnes, is from the House of Tea. Several other houses feature prominently in book 1, and we may or may not spend time with some of the others in book 2. So the post from Del Rey, who's a publisher, says, prepare to unearth the arcane secrets of necromancy and sink your teeth into Innamorata by Ava Reid, the first book in a grim, dark, gothic fantasy duology coming March 17th. Another post said, Innamorata by Ava Reid released today. You will like this if you like grim, dark, gothic horrors. You might not like this if you are expecting a dark gothic fantasy as it's marketed, light on the fantasy, or romance. There's a romance, but it is not a romance book. This has one of the most disturbing scenes I've read, and trigger warnings are important with this one. As an official one does not exist, here are your content warnings.
About this Ava Reid Innamorata from a longtime bookseller, the publisher has on an official industry platform listed key selling points for this book as epic fantasy with gothic elements in a doomed love story plotline, a fascination with the macabre, a romanticizing of dark imagery and themes, tragic sapphic romance, among other things. Also, 5 out of 10 listed tropes by the publisher are generally considered romance tropes. That may be kind of hard to see, but this is the screenshot that they included from Edelweiss. For Innamorata, it has the information, says, our gorgeous package will feature stencil edges. Okay, first in a dark epic fantasy duology. It says epic fantasy with gothic elements and a doomed love story plotline, includes a love story, doomed romance, tragic love triangle plotline, not a romantasy or romantic fantasy. It deals with dark taboo subjects and does not have an HEA. An extravagantly gothic aesthetic, a fascination with the macabre, a romanticizing of dark imagery, and there's an image over it. The something atmosphere of slow burn, dread, and gloom. Something of repressed desire and forbidden sexuality, not suitable for YA audiences. It has House of the Dragon meets Gideon the Ninth and a unique epic fantasy that mixes political drama, tragic sapphic romance, and necromancy, delivering the rich world building readers want from epic fantasy with fresh themes. Tropes: friends to lovers to enemies, sapphic rivals, forbidden love, necromancy, revenge, slow burn, warring houses, morally gray characters, doomed romance, tragic ending. So I understand what they're saying, but they're also, it does not say anywhere on here horror, so that's a valid point. But also it does say not a romantasy or a romantic fantasy, deals with dark taboo subjects, and does not have an HEA. Just pointing that out.
So since the post is saying a dark gothic fantasy and people are saying it really should have been labeled as a horror, they find that that is very misleading. Now, I will say that I understand why people want content warnings, trigger warnings on things, especially for certain things. And this is not the first time a publisher has done a not great job at marketing a book. I think that is just one of the biggest things that fails authors and the audience is when they mismarket a book. I don't understand. There are readers for everything. People want something dark, like a fantastical horror or a gothic horror with fantastical elements or whatever, if you market it to the right people. So that is misleading. Now, I will say that it does say necromancy, so I would expect some dark things. And according to what people have listed as the content warnings that they would give for the book, there is a lot in there. I will also say that everything that could be a potential trigger for someone is not possible to mark. Like, maybe, again, I don't know if Ava Reid said, hey, no content warnings. I don't have evidence of that. But if, let's say there were content warnings and they just said animal death, sexual violence, something else. Some of the screenshots from that story graph have body horror, infidelity, infertility, misogyny, classism, colonization. Like, I myself would not think of these things when I'm trying to give a content warning for a story. Injury, alcohol, toxic friendship, religious bigotry, violence, blood, murder. I just feel like that's a lot. And I'm glad that that feature exists on StoryGraph so you can see all the things from somebody who wants to list them all. But if you were expecting a publisher or an author to list every single, maybe slightly negative thing that happens in the book as a content warning, that's just my opinion. And I know people you don't have to agree with that. So I think it is fair to be upset at the publisher and maybe also, I already forgot what Ava said. I know she just put death, marked island, step into a story of vengeance, twisted and aberrant love, characters who are chained to their fates in a narrative that moves inexorably towards tragedy. So, I'm not getting the vibe that it was marketed as a romance, but maybe they really should have highlighted that it is a horror novel. And again, I do think some content warnings are helpful, but if you're expecting like that laundry list, I don't think that's realistic because everyone is not going to have the same reactions to things that you may. Like having infidelity listed as a content warning. And I, as someone who lost my dog, I don't like animal death in a book. So I do appreciate when it is mentioned, but like, again, that's me. Everybody has different levels. So I just think with content warnings, it's very hard to come up with like a standardized system because everybody doesn't feel the same or the same levels towards something. So I think it's a worthy conversation to have. And again, a great feature on StoryGraph. So if you're looking at a book, you can see and, look at multiple reviews to get an idea of all the things that are in a book and decide if you want to read that. But there are some other criticism floating around about Ava Reid's work. I haven't read any of her books, so I don't have a dog in the fight, but I just wanted to talk about the content warning aspect of it. And again, you can disagree with me. You just need to be respectful about it. Okay? Last but not least, a few years ago, it is 2026. I don't remember. I feel like at least in 2024, it could have been 23. I don't know. But I did do a video about a plagiarism case. So there's the books that are like Crave, something something, like the covers kind of give Twilight. And it's by Tracy Wolff. And the case was from an author that Lynn Freeman, who alleged that Tracy Wolff basically plagiarized the series. Lynn Freeman had said like they had written this story and had given the transcript essentially like to an agent or an editor, and the editor ended up giving it to Tracy Wolff. If I can find that video, I'll link it if you want to go back, because I like read parts from like the lawsuit. But this just came out yesterday. It says court rules Tracy Wolff did not plagiarize Crave. A judge in the Southern District of New York ruled that Tracy Wolff did not plagiarize her young adult fantasy series Crave, according to a report that first appeared in Publisher's Lunch. The ruling concludes a multi-year lawsuit brought against Wolff by writer Lynn Freeman, alleging the series was substantially similar to one of her unpublished manuscripts. Freeman also named her and Wolff's mutual agent, Emily Sylvan Kim, Crave publisher and Tangled Books, distributor Macmillan, and Universal City Studios, which bought film rights to the first installment in the series, in the suit. In the ruling, Judge Colleen McMahon wrote that Freeman's novel and Wolff's Crave novels are indeed similar, but only in the ways that all young adult romantasy fiction novels are similar to each other. The court added that hot, sexy, dangerous boys, central to virtually all young adult romance novels, cannot be copyrighted. That's an interesting thing from the court. So that was just an update. Again, I have not read Crave. Does not speak to me. But when I was reading the lawsuit, there were some similarities in there, but I guess it wasn't enough for the judges to deem that it was plagiarism. But I think that plagiarism, especially for a novel, is kind of hard to prove. And obviously in the literary field, there are tropes and themes that are similar between books. So I can see how a judge was like, that's not enough. But that must suck if what happened did happen. That she had an unpublished manuscript, her agent gave it to someone else, and then they reworked it into whatever. That does suck if that's what happened. So anyway, that was just a little update there. Just, you know, a little recentness and what's going on. And I will leave you with this person. I won't post it here. I'm just gonna say it because I feel it. They said, can I say something? And I was like, because it was like hidden in the bubble text. Some of y'all are making the book community insufferable. I mean, that's not new, but I felt like I wanted to say that. Well, I've got to go run. Unfortunate for me. So let me know your thoughts on anything. Keep it cute and keep it respectful. Other things, the world is a mess, so please take care of yourselves and find moments of joy where you can. You know, gotta protect the mental health. I still have spots on my Christmas trip to, why am I forgetting? Munich, Vienna, and Salzburg in December. There are 6 spots left, so claim yours. You have time to pay it off. Because it's December 15th, it'll be a lot of fun. Iceland is sold out, but you can add yourself to the wait list because if something unfortunately happens, you could get a spot on the trip. And I am thinking about ones for next year. Will this world be here next year? I don't know. But this is my way of staying out of a depression spiral, because Sunday is the 1-year anniversary that I lost Nigel. So I have to think of good things to keep myself from wanting to open this here window and jump out of it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I was thinking about somewhere warm like Vietnam or Thailand for next year, but also I want to go to Slovenia. So keep yourself posted. Keep yourself posted. Stay up to date. Y'all, I should not record before having coffee. I shouldn't do that. But anyway, there'll be a link. You can add your email. So when there's trips launch, you get a notification is what I'm trying to say. And then there's links to the other 2 trips. I've got to wrap it up. Thank you for watching. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturize, and sunscreen. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.